Let's look at another problem that we can use a loop to solve. This is your Mastery Quiz M54. So what we want to do is write a program that's going to determine how much you can earn after making initial investment for a given number of years with an interest rate. So we want to let the user enter in the initial investment. That's how much money did you go to the bank and deposit. So for example, if we had $1,000, went to the bank, put it in the bank, and the bank has an interest rate, right? When we put money in the bank right now, it's about 0.1%. But let's pretend that we actually can get a 10% return. Wouldn't that be awesome? And so at a 10% return for our investment, that's going to be another input that the user can put in based on their actual bank's investment rate. And then we're going to say how many years that we're going to let that money sit there. And we're going to have the interest accrue on a yearly basis. So every year we'll be able to get a 10% interest earned, get added into the balance of our account. And so we want to see how much money we can accumulate after a certain number of years. So we're going to let the user enter the number of years. Here, our example is 3 years. So here we're investing $1,000 for 3 years at an annual interest rate of 10%. So the first year, you put $1,000 in, and after that year is over, you earn 10% interest on that. Well, 10 divided by 100 is 0.1. So that's 1,000 times 0.1 or $100. We just earned $100 on our investment. And we're just going to add that back into the balance for our account. And now we have $1,100. Okay, after the second year, well, we had $1,100 in there for a full year, so we get to gain interest on both the 1,000, the original 1,000, and the 1,100. So we multiply that by our rate of 0.1, and that gives us $110 that we earned that year, and that gets added to our balance, so now we have $1,210. We just continue with that same process. And after 3 years, we'll have $1,331 if we invested $1,000 and earned annual interest at 10%. So let's look at how we can write this program. Well, we can't write it in Khan Academy because Khan Academy doesn't have any way for us to enter in the initial investment, the interest rate, and the number of years. So we're going to write the JavaScript using prompt and alert to get the input. If you want to get fancy, you could create an HTML page that has input boxes for that input and then writes to the page. That is not required for these upcoming assignments. So we have a template that allows us to run any kind of JavaScript. We could also write it in the console, but then we don't have the benefit of the color coding and that we're always saving it. We could potentially lose it. So we had this template that you were able to download from the course previously. So I'm just going to make a copy of that template. And so it created a template 0 for me. And I'm going to rename that to fixed term investment. So here's our fixed term investment now. Doesn't really have anything special in there. It's just the same code. Let me close out the one from the template so we know that we're working with the right one. So if I open that in Explorer, I can run it, and that I do by opening with Chrome. It's just running that basic template, and now we're ready to write our code. we want to allow the user to enter an initial investment, an interest rate, and a number of years. But that gets tedious when I have to prompt and enter all those things in right away. So I'm going to start out by just declaring those variables and setting them to initial values that then I'll later add in the prompts, just to make it easier. So I'm going to set my initial investment to $1,000, my rate to 10%. Oh, but it won't like that 10%. It will think that percent sign is a character. So I'm going to put my rate to be 10 here. And this is actually my rate percentage. In order to get the rate, it would be that percentage divided by 100. And I have a variable that has the years. I'm just going to make it neat and put the semicolons there. Okay, so instead of trying to do the loop right away, let's try to understand how this works. So let's just try to write this code here that will find out the interest earned. Now let's see. Do I have a variable that's holding the interest earned yet? No. So I'm going to create a variable for my interest earned. And I'm going to set that to the calculation. Well, that's my initial value times my rate percentage divided by 100. So that's initial times my rate and since it's a percentage, I have to divide that by 100. Okay, I don't really need to see this HTML anymore, so just take that out so it'll be bigger. Okay, so once I've earned my interest, that goes back into my account for my balance. So, you know, if you have a bank account, it has a balance. If you deposit money, it adds to it. If you earn interest, it adds to it. So we need to change my balance to be the original balance plus that interest earned. Well, we don't really have a variable for our balance yet. So let's create our variable for our balance. And that is going to be equal to our initial plus our interest earned. So if I check my balance, it should be $1,100. That's what my test information is telling me. So let's check and see. Oh, nothing's coming up. I have some kind of error. If I look on the console, click on the red, it will bring up the error. It says initial is not defined. Oh, I have a typo. I spelled it wrong. So let's check that. Oh, here it is, right here, initial. So now if I refresh it, oh, I got my 1100. Okay, so I have the first step correct. So let's look at the next step. So this is after 1 year.